I've gone through just about each and every singing or rapping member of Brockhampton and detailed specific topics relating to their role in the boy band, at least from my perspective. I talked about how Joba can seamlessly transition from one extreme emotion to the other, all the while changing up his delivery every time. I described how Kevin Abstract has the potential to conquer whatever medium he chooses fit, whether it be singing, rapping, directing, producing, etc. I gave my perspective on how each member of the boy band had their quote-unquote shining moments throughout Saturation 1 and 2, but then Matt Champion really stole the show from me on Saturation 3. I talked about how McLennon may come off as silly and obnoxious, but deep down, when you really start to pay attention to what he's saying, he's easily one of the most thoughtful and intelligent members of the group, and most recently, I detailed Bareface's come up as a solo artist and what his angelic vocals and moody guitar ballads mean to Brockhampton in the grander scheme of things. So with only one member to go, what do I think Dom McLennon brings to Brockhampton? To try and put it into one word, poetry. When I look at every member of Brockhampton, specifically those who rap, Dom has consistently delivered the most powerful and meaningful verses throughout the group's history. Time and time again, his rhetoric, wordplay, knowledge, and emotion all combine to create some of Brockhampton's most memorable verses. It's extremely rare that when Dom is on a track, he's saying something vapid. There's almost always substance. Oftentimes it's something that, in comparison to the other members, it makes Dom seem like he's not even just on a different level, but that he's in a completely other league. And I'm not downplaying any of the other members of Brockhampton here. Their rapping is top notch, it's why I'm such a huge fan and I continue to make all these videos. But there seems to be a clear difference between Kevin, Joba, Matt, and McLennon making rap music and Dom writing poetry. For example, Saturation 3's Bleach is one of my favorite Brockhampton songs of all time. I'm sure that's a track that a lot of you love too. There's one of my favorite beats across the entire trilogy. I love the little transition effects throughout the track, and there are undoubtedly some great verses here. Matt has this great little triple entendre.
Phone ringing, never outgoing, homebody never outgoing.
We can look at the word outgoing and see how it can mean that he's not out going around anywhere, that he's introverted, so he's not an outgoing person, and that he's not calling anyone back, so his calls are never outgoing. And then we have a short but meaningful verse from McLennon. Like I said before, his general demeanor can throw you off a little bit, but the end of this verse shows you that there's more than meets the eye.
You be hurting if you trust me, but you isn't. Honestly, that's probably the right decision.
And then we get to Dom.
They said, do you make mistakes or do you make a change? Or do you draw the line for when it's better days? We taste the wind for when it's cold enough to kill our flame. I wonder who's to blame.
These are both solid rap verses, but this is something deeper, more eloquent, and in the end, extremely poetic. As soon as I heard it, it even reminded me of one of my favorite poems, which was written by Chloe Mitchell. An excerpt was featured on Blame Game by Kanye West. Take a listen to what they sound like side by side. I think it's a cool little double feature, if you will.
They said, do you make mistakes or do you make a change? Or do you draw the line for when it's better days? We taste the wind for when it's cold enough to kill our flame. I wonder who's to blame.
With so much of everything, how do we leave with nothing? Lack of visual empathy equates the meaning of LOVE. Hatred and attitude tear us entirely.
And the thing that interests me most within good poetry is the unadulterated emotion and barrage of feelings that can be seen within a stanza. Within Brockhampton, Dom seems to play an interesting metaphorical role as a protector of sorts. He's very emotional and vulnerable, but there's an intense level of control to what he's saying and doing. If we're talking about who in the group lets their feelings show the most within their lyrics, I'd probably put Dom and Joba at the top. Let's look at both of them on Saturation 3's Johnny. Whereas Joba lets everything loose without much of a filter, almost like a diary,
My life ain't been the same since my dog died, since my girl left. I quit drinking and drugging and still can't get ahead.
Dom's emotional, vulnerable verses oftentimes feel like guidance.
You don't gotta leave for them to define you, cause what could you demand when everybody out to define you without a circumstance?
It's really interesting to see how two great artists deal with their emotions. Joba picked the more stream of consciousness approach, just laying everything out on the table, and Dom chose the more polished, thoughtful approach and seems to be giving advice. Both have their place. Joba's lyrics tell a very specific story, but the general themes can be applied to more of a widespread audience, whereas Dom's lyrics set out to touch on widespread themes, which can then be applied to more specific situations later on. Something that is so impressive to me, by the way, is how effortlessly Dom seems to flow on whatever instrumental he's given. Writing great emotional poetic lyrics is one thing, but having them sound great in a rap song is a completely different field. When asked about his writing process by Elevator magazine, Dom said this: "When I started writing Thesis, I approached writing phonetically, like how many syllables can create this bar? What syllables can I take out to make this flow better? Through the process of making that project, I learned how to write in rhythm first, then fill the words in later. Now whenever I hear something I plan on being a part of, instead of hearing it bar by bar, I hear it phrase by phrase. It allows me to manipulate the way I'm putting my words together and articulate my thoughts properly. I want to write a book on it one day, for real. I think approaching songwriting in the sense of putting your thoughts to a rhythm and cadence is a lot more freeing than the standard way people write raps. Now instead of writing all day and then finding a beat to match it, I keep all my thoughts internalized. So when something musical really speaks to me emotionally, it just spills out and I'm able to place the words exactly where they need to be to get my point across." Now, excuse me for putting in that long quote, but isn't it amazing seeing his perspective on songwriting? As someone with very little musical talent, it's always incredible to me hearing how musicians operate. The way Dom's able to almost hack songwriting and make it more attainable for him, all the while finding a way to let his emotions run wild, is nothing short of remarkable. One of my favorite examples of Dom's impressive flow is on Saturation 2's Chick.
Another number in the line, ready to march in the tombs. I ain't the one to assume. I put the coon in tycoon.
And while I've been talking about how deep and poetic Dom's verses are, I want to make it clear that he's more than able to have some fun too. His verse on Saturation 1's Star is without a doubt one of the most iconic in all of Brockhampton's history. I've seen the boys live in concert twice, which equates to about 10 performances of Star, and everyone always went so crazy for this part of the song.
I'ma go in the Stella. I feel like Matthew McConaughey. I don't care for what they gotta say. Tony Perkins, how I dropped away.
And who could forget his verse on arguably Brockhampton's silliest song of all time, Saturation 2's Sweet?
The original licks, flickety higher than Yosemite, breaking the moat, mentally master with no limits.
So whether he's doing something more lighthearted and fun like Star or Sweet, or if he's proving himself as Brockhampton's #1 storyteller and poet with intricate, emotional, and deep verses like on Bleach or Johnny, Dom McLennon is an incredible musician. His stunning process of songwriting matched with his vulnerability and eagerness to get better and better as time goes on makes him one of a kind in my eyes, and I really appreciate everything he brings to Brockhampton. Hey, thanks so much for watching this video. Remember to like and subscribe if you want more videos like this. If you want to follow my social media, the links are down below. You can also donate to my Patreon, help the show, and get some cool rewards if you click the link on the screen. And I sell merch at tpublic.com/user/alfomedia. Thanks for watching, and always forward.